Thank you everybody for coming to the 8th iteration of the New Zealand Business Application Summit. It used to be called something else in the past. We used to do it as the Dynamics 365 Saturday, and then the Dynamics 365 Friday, and then the Business Application Summit. But it's the same conference, it's the same community that is bringing you that. We've got quite a lot to cover at the keynote, but also throughout the session. So there'll be 5 sessions or 5 tracks running in parallel, one for each of the major cities, Auckland, Wellington, and Christchurch. And then after that, we've got 2 tracks also running in parallel for our international speakers. And we've got an amazing set of speakers joining us from all around the world, from Europe, from the US, from Australia. So it's quite diverse this year. And I was really overwhelmed when I saw all the submissions and all the people that are really keen to participate in that community. One of the reasons why do this event specifically is to give it a New Zealand flavor, or an ANZ flavor at least. So a lot of the context that you will be seeing today, especially in the local tracks, is more around our perception and our point of view from a New Zealand market and from how we do things here. I'll hand over to the different cities. So Rich, do you want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Yeah, I just kind of move back a little bit. Camera's really high up. Hello from Christchurch. We've got more people coming in soon. We've got good speakers here. We're looking at Dataverse. We're looking at SharePoint workflows or Power Automate. We're looking at Dynamics and Click Dimensions later on. And then we've got a really cool session later with Andrew and Elena over there who are doing a Power Pages 2-hour workshop where we're going to learn to build a vet practice with Power Pages and Copilot. It's pretty cool. It will be recorded, so if you're not here, check that session out later on. That's it from us.
Thanks, Rich. Ragavan, how's it going in Auckland?
Yes, from me. Yeah. Hello, guys. Myself, Ragavan. I am the organizer for the Auckland Power Platform User Group. Along with me, Hamish is there. He is the organizer for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform User Group. And we have flavored of sessions today, especially privileged to have Martin Wildsmith and Mark Smith and Meg Smith and so many speakers, and obviously like Nathan Rose, who is one of the top rock star, he's also here. And we're privileged to host this. I think it's the 8th year, so we are really proud to have this session here. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ragavan. So yes, we will be talking a lot about AI, but also about non-AI topics, because I know this is important for everybody in the community. So given that we crunch on time, I'm first going to hand over to Michael Bayliss from Microsoft, who's going to give us the direction that Microsoft is taking, especially about, what are they called? Copilots?
Right. Come on, mate.
Agents. And then after that, we need a good half an hour for Martin Wildsmith in Auckland. He's going to be the honored speaker from Olympic 33, who's also going to give us the point of view of AI and how we're using it in the region. So over to you, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Everyone can see me. Hopefully the camera might readjust any moment. So as Rami said, my name is Michael Bailey. I'm what's called a technical specialist here at Microsoft. So I work across a lot of enterprise customers in New Zealand. So some of you guys, across the country are part of my customer set. And what I'm going to cover off today in a relatively quick sort of, drive-by is the Microsoft agent vision. So this is something that has been talked about a lot in the last few weeks. You may have already seen some of the announcements from Satya and others around this topic.
Sharing.
Can everyone see my screen?
I can see you standing in front of the screen.
Stand by. How's that? Yep, better. There we go.
That's better.
Plug it back in, turn it off and on again. So as I say, I'm going to take us through that agent's vision piece. So when we look at where the world is going, Microsoft's been headed in the last couple of years. Copilot is at the center of lots of things. Copilot has been enhanced and added to. It's been put into all of our applications, whether it's Power, whether it's Dynamics, whether it's M365. But where we're starting to see Copilot head is more towards business process, actually making it do things for us, not just answer questions, not just help us and you make a PowerPoint presentation, but actually run something. And when we look at where sort of the difference between Copilot, which we've been talking about a lot for the last year, and where we're headed with agents, is that Copilot has very much been that, literally, Copilot, not autopilot. It's been helping the human augmentation. It's been about you asking questions. You have to prompt it. You have to get it to do something before it will actually act. We're headed with agents, though, so that we can leverage that same capability, but potentially in an autonomous way. You may keep a human in the loop. You may not. So there's an amazing amount of productivity that can be unlocked if you start to automate a lot of these capabilities, seeing in Copilot and some of the a lot. And it's not a one or the other, right? It's actually better together. So when you think about people at the center of the world and then using Copilot in various forms, whether it's inside Dynamics, inside Power, inside Microsoft 365, inside Bing as well, to access things and ask things, we're going to see that we're going to start unlocking a lot of these agents that can act on behalf of you. And an organization may have thousands of agents running on its behalf. An individual may have thousands of agents that they can bring to bear or maybe operating on behalf of them as well. So the whole point of this is to try and make Copilot useful, or accessible, and work at a more enterprise scale for some of those complex business. So we've kind of been doing this for a while. If anybody's looked at Copilot Studio or Power Virtual Agents, you've been doing it. So the point I want to make to the audience here today is that this isn't new. You guys have already been going down this path. If you're familiar with Power Automate, if you're familiar with Dataverse, if you're familiar with Power Virtual Agents, Copilot Studio, you've been doing that retrieval piece for ages. It's generally available. You can do that today. So if you want to create a chat interface and a Copilot interface, an agent interface to do a retrieval, we can do that. In terms of doing tasks, again, that's something that we've been doing for the last sort of 6 to 12 months, where you can have your Copilot, your agent, do something on your behalf. Create a case, look up a field service work order. It might be. But where we're headed, and this is in preview today, is the autonomous agents. I've got a quick video I'll show you guys about that a bit later on. So it is a continuum. It's not a one, other, or the next. It is very much a, what is the process you're trying to run? Is it simply just to ask for information? You may just have a retrieval type agent run, all the way through to an advanced. So as soon as something lands on your desk, agents kick into life. They start doing things on your behalf. And this is where everyone in this room here and everyone online today is part of this transformation and journey, because the capabilities to actually develop these agents, which are going to power the future and power the world of tomorrow, exist in quite a few ways. Everywhere from the absolute no-code, bare basics beginner doesn't know anything about technology can create an agent to do something on their behalf. Copilot Studio, our virtual agents, everything people are familiar with there. That is the heart of how we actually develop custom agents. And then you can take it one step further. If you are a boffin who loves Azure OpenAI and AI Studio and things like that in that end, you can get very much pro code in creating these agents to do some very specific cool things. So in terms of Copilot Studio, this is kind of where I would direct everybody in this room to get really familiar with, start really playing with it. And I've got some links at the end that you guys can pick up and actually go and have a play around with this. But then you had quick hands in the room. Who's playing the Copilot Studio? Come on, show that. Of course you had, mate. So there's a handful. Get on board, right? Get in there, have a play around, start looking at it, because it is definitely where a lot of this stuff is headed. So quickly on a retrieval, this is a pretty simple example of the sort of thing that you do with a retrieval. So when a Copilot, you might want to ask a question, it's going to go and look knowledge, maybe in SharePoint, maybe on a web link, and it's going to retrieve that. It's going to give you a nice response back. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, really powerful use case for just information gathering. When it comes to a task, this is where you can ask it to do something. And this is where things like Power Automate and some of those other capabilities come in under the covers to actually then action something, do something, create something, look something up. But this is the cool one. This is where we're headed very, very fast. autonomous agents. So this is where, instead of you having to define every single piece that happens, and it has to be a human that initiates it, it can just do it by itself. So in this instance, it may be, for example, an email arrives, that might kick off the process. You didn't tell it to do anything. It's going to kick off a whole bunch of things that will go through. It'll have a series of things that it has access to, whether it's knowledge, automations, data, and then it will actually drive an outcome for you. Correct. So I'm going to show a quick video just to illustrate that point.
With Copilot Studio, customers now have the power to build autonomous agents to drive AI-first business process. Let's take a look at how McKinsey & Company, one of the largest global management consultancies, is piloting a client service agent with these new Copilot Studio capabilities. Say a prospective McKinsey client sends an email requesting an engagement. As soon as the email is received, the agent gets to work extracting the relevant details. It then follows a series of steps, including verifying any previous engagements with this customer, validating the industry sector, summarizing the client needs, and identifying the appropriate McKinsey expert to meet with the client. It then writes and sends an email to the selected expert with the relevant client details, the agent effectively reasoning over the situation to come to a resolution. It's been given operational guidelines in Copilot Studio, and it can think and act within those guardrails to get the job done. Now let's go behind the scenes to see how the agent was built. It started in Copilot Studio with simple instructions outlining the job it needs to perform. In this case, the agent's tasked with fielding all incoming engagement requests from McKinsey clients. That means it monitors inbound requests, identifies the right McKinsey partner to meet with the customer, and sends an email to finalize the details. The agent has clear triggers, which allow it to work autonomously. It's on 24/7, looking for those triggers. In this case, it's looking for an email. But it could also be triggered by events from a wide range of sources, including line of business applications. The agent has a knowledge base, enabling it to tap into both your productivity data, leveraging the Microsoft Graph, and your line of business systems across knowledge sources like SAP, ServiceNow, and Fabric. Finally, the agent has clearly defined actions it can take to get work done. And you can add new actions from over 1,500 data connectors. Based on the specifics of each incoming request, the agent identifies and executes the most appropriate actions for the situation. If you want to see what the agent is working on, you can go to the Activity tab. You just saw how the agent managed one engagement, but this agent is actively managing dozens of inbound requests from many different clients, all at the same time. You can see its performance at the top, or delve deeper in the Analytics tab. There are some instances when the agent knows it needs to escalate to a human. Let's take a look at one of those. We can see the steps the agent already completed, but then it got stuck. Let's dig deeper to see what happened. It looks like it couldn't find the partner, as he is no longer at the company. This triggered a flow where the agent needed to escalate to a human. Let's jump to BizChat, where we can see the notification from the agent. Copilot presents all relevant information from the manager to verify. The manager decides to manually reassign the engagement to someone else on the team. Now the agent can continue to work, processing the final details and sending an email to the right people. In piloting this agent, McKinsey & Company found lead time could be reduced by 90% and administrative work reduced by 30%. That was just one example of an agent being piloted. Soon, we anticipate every organization will have a constellation of agents that support individual employees, teams, and functions to orchestrate business processes. Copilot Studio will be where you build these agents, and Copilot will be where you interact with them. With Copilot Studio, every customer has the power to build their own custom autonomous agents.
So, talked a lot about Copilot Microsoft 365 Copilot as being the interface to interact with these agents. But there's lots of ways you can interact with these agents. So when we look at in the world we live in, business applications, Dynamics 365 Power Platform are absolutely great ways to interact with these agents. So in terms of the channels that you choose to light these up on, you have a lot of choices, and you also can do it in your own custom applications as well. So it's really much broadening that scope of just Copilot M365 to everywhere. Talk about staying in that flow of work. So if someone lives in Dynamics, keep them in Dynamics, provide agents through Dynamics as an example. And just on that topic, when you think about the use cases and the personas that may leverage agents in a typical organization, and similar to lots of your organizations, everywhere sort of finance, marketing, legal in terms of helping them complete their jobs, create briefs, find information, HR for maybe things like onboarding, customer service and sales for really enhancing those service and driving opportunities. There's lots of little use cases around here that agents can be used to bring to bear to automate a lot of those very manual, very process-driven tasks, like the McKinsey example there, where it was 90% reduction in lead time. Right? That's crazy. That's huge. Yeah. I do want to say you don't have to create it all. We're coming to the party as well. So in the Dynamics world, which is where I love to live, Microsoft is coming thick and fast with our first-party agents. So these are ones that you'll be able to light up within Dynamics, and they'll be able to drive very specific outcomes. When I say thick and fast, a lot of these are coming in public preview in December, right? So we're going to start playing with these. We're going to start experimenting with them. We're starting to understand them, and they're going to be GA early next year, quite a few of them. So my message on this is definitely just get on board, get understanding what they do and how they work. But there's some very, very cool ones that are a couple I'm very excited about in that customer service space, because contact centers are slammed to actually doing their work. Yeah. Can't just let these out in the wild, right? So governance is key. And as part of that, we're also releasing a Copilot hub, part of our Power Platform governance framework. So this is where you'll be able to manage, monitor, understand what your agents are doing, who's using them, how useful they are. There's lots of them that are requiring human intervention. Those sorts of things to understand and monitor, and the performance and things like that is really, really going to be important. So we're going to be delivering these tools to the likes of yourselves to be able to understand how those agents are actually running in your organizations. The other thing I will say, because this is a very important topic as well, is that security and trust is key for these things to actually scale. So people don't like them, people don't trust them, they're not going to go anywhere. So Microsoft, as we've always been, is investing very heavily in this space around things like your enterprise data protection. So if you've got things like data loss prevention rules, the agents will abide by them. You've got data access rules, the agents will abide by them. So you're not going to suddenly be exposing your data that a user shouldn't be seeing or accessing through the agents. That's really important. So those enterprise data protection, the access controls you have, and then, as I say, that agent governance, kind of the three legs of the stool that make the trust happen when it comes to these agents and AI as we move forward. Now, I'm just going to leave you with one slide. Feel free to take a photo. There's some QR codes. It doesn't. But there's a lot of resources out there to help you guys get started. You can try it out. You can spin up a quick trial, have a play around, see what it looks like, play around with these features. But there's a lot of information on the website, blog, there's product documentation, there's learning resources. So as I say, I'm going to finish on what I started with. Get on board, get excited, try it out, and thank you very much.
Yeah, just a quick thank you to all our sponsors. We've got our major sponsors, Olympic 33 and DXC, that has helped us with the food, the catering, and supporting us across the different cities. So Martin is from Olympics 33, and then he is our keynote speaker. H2R is supporting us here in Wellington with catering as well, for lunch specifically. Microsoft is providing us with the venue and the support from a keynote perspective, so thank you very much, Michael. And then we also have down in Christchurch, Stratos and Leaf Software. So we've got Sarah in the audience. We can see her there. So thank you very much for your sponsorship. And Steve Knudsen, who also helped us from Stratos. So thanks for that. And over to you, Martin, whenever you're ready.
My first ever job in IT in New Zealand was 1995 at a company called Olympic Software. And it's very weird because in 2024, I led a group of shareholders to buy Olympic Software. It was kind of weird that I've gone around this massive sort of circle back to a company that I first cut my teeth on. And what I'm going to walk through today really is my view, I guess, of where I see AI, how we make this real, and certainly give you some nuts and bolts about practical things that you could do to make this real for your customers. This afternoon, Nathan's going to do a presentation specifically demonstrating what I'm going to talk through. I've got 3 or 4 examples, but I'm not going to try and demo them. I'm going to just whip them through in the presentation. But Nathan's going to have the joy of actually doing the live presentation and specifically showing you something inside CE, which I think relates to more people in this room than probably I do, because I'm very much an ERP guy rather than a CE person or a CRM person in terms of demonstration. So Nathan's going to give you a real world experience this afternoon using this technology. Okay, I'm going to try and keep very much to the timetable. I don't like speakers who spend 25 minutes more than they're supposed to, so I'll see how I get on. I've got quite a bit of content, so I'll tune it up as I go and see if I can get all this content out in 30 minutes. But I said to Rami, I might need more time. If you guys are going to ask questions, I'm totally nailed, right? So we'll try and do the questions at the end. Quick bit of background. Obviously, everyone's hyped up about AI, and certainly my view is, we're doing this classic hype curve sort of thing, right? And I feel like we've done this all before. Anyone who's been in IT long enough, it sort of feels like about my 4th rodeo, and this feels a lot like the cloud thing. We've got all the people out there saying, cloud was not real and customers weren't going to go there. And it was I actually stood in a meeting once where a CEO stood up and told Microsoft, this is just a marketing thing. My customers don't want to be paying for their licenses on a monthly basis. This is all bullshit, and I'm busy going live with Cheetah Design down the road on this thing called, F&O version 7, which is cloud-based retail, first client in the world, thinking, well, there's something that's gone wrong here because I'm about to go live. So either I've totally screwed up, or this guy doesn't understand. And here we are all now, customers paying hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars per annum to effectively host their solutions. So I sort of feel that AI thing is kind of going through this similar emotional kind of path, and lots of people are anxious and negative and feel, it's all hype and where's it all going to come from? AI kicked off in 56. That's when it's got its official name. Really, the big breakthroughs, 1997, when IBM's computer beat the chess world champion. It's the first kind of big milestone where a computer really beat a human. Really started to take off, though, in 2017 with OpenAI starting to release GPT, and really what that meant started to explode. I've got a few examples of that, but, 2023 ChatGPT achieved 100 million monthly subscribers. I've got a slide on that about 2 months. By far the fastest growing application in terms of adoption worldwide, broke all the records. But particularly a key one for me was when we started allowing function calling, right? In 2023, OpenAI started to introduce this idea that we could talk to a business application, we could talk to a database, we could call an API, and suddenly we could, attach our AI intelligence to actually business things. And really, to me, this is the big breakthrough for us as a group, where this really started to add value for us and make a difference. But, we've been on this journey, huge acceleration, 2023. I like this slide, just purely says here 2 months to achieve 100 million users, 5 days to achieve 100 million. Users, this is just users, right? So ChatGPT is, a bit of a legend in terms of adoption. And it's really interesting. I was speaking to a consultant friend of mine yesterday. He does CIO advisory work. He uses ChatGPT every day, right? He actually did an interview yesterday with a large customer, and he just Googled in to say, well, if I was applying for a job, what will be the top 25 questions that I would expect to get in this job? And please tell me the best practice answers for those 25 questions. He went and had an interview with a guy who was head of AI strategy, and he felt that he had got his questions from ChatGPT. He asked him straight in sequence the 10 questions in a row that he had as his top 10, and he had really good answers for those questions. So the guy prepared badly, and so he got a really good answer. They did have some good discussion post that, but it is interesting how fundamental and how invasive this is already in lots of people's lives. And, you know, ChatGPT is really boiled into, boiled into things like education now is a major part of, you know, what is going to uni and, you know, what is giving answers and how do we going to vet that and get cognitive thinking from the human versus cognitive thinking from the AI support. I feel we're in this classic kind of hype curve. ChatGPT rocketed us up this hype curve. We had these massive expectations that it was going to solve all these huge problems really quickly and we're going to do these big, big things. I think we've come sliding down the reality curve that said, well, that was way harder than we thought. And what are we going to do next? And we're in this actual natural process. We're in this trough of sort of disillusionment that says, well, actually, what are we going to do? And we're racing out in, I think, sort of much more practical things to help us drive ourselves forward. Lots of players have entered. We've just heard from Microsoft and Copilot as their framework. But, you know, all the vendors are out there driving this slightly different terminology, lots and lots of LLMs, which we'll talk about later on, huge money being invested, huge dollars, you know, in terms of being the leader in AI, in terms of company value. ChatGPT to me is the driver, I guess, of that hype. I love this example. I'm a bit of a fan of Tesla. I actually owned a Tesla in 2018. Yeah, I had an X. This is Elon Musk. Yeah. 2013, I predict Tesla will be building self-driving cars by 2016. We go to 2016. The basic news is that all Tesla vehicles leaving the factory will have the hardware necessary for level 5 autonomy. 2018, fully self-driving cars are only 1 year away. I think we'll have features complete in our self-driving cars this year. On and on and on it goes to 2023. The trend is very clearly towards full self-driving, towards self-autonomy. And I hesitate to say, but I think we'll get there next year, right? So here he is, he's gone 10 years in a row promising autonomous cars, AI-driven cars, 1 year away, yeah? If you actually look this up, last few weeks ago, he actually announced he doesn't think it will work. Oh. But the hardware in the cars is not good enough to actually make it work. We've gone 11 years in a row announcing that we're going to have autonomous vehicles tomorrow, you know, the next week, next year, and he's just announced the cars technically aren't strong enough to make it work. That's why we have a hype curve. That's why we have a bit, just a bit of disappointment. That's why we're in this sort of period of disillusionment, because we've had this 10 years in a row from people like this, pumping it out early, overselling how we're going to get there without understanding. But it doesn't mean that we're not going to get there. It's just more about expectation management and how we want to sell our companies and sell our visions early and pump up our share prices, right? So, you know, we're down here in the bottom. How are we going to get out of it? It doesn't mean that what we're doing is failing. It just means that we need to reframe what we're doing with what we have. And this is the natural part of the process. And what happens is we start switching to far more practical things that we can do. And we start getting back to delivering far more practical solutions with the tools that we have. And that's really where I believe we're at. And the key thing from my point of view is in July 2024, Microsoft brought out this thing called semantic kernel, right? Now we talk about Copilot, we understand Copilot. To me, Copilot is sort of the packaging up in low code, the ability for lots of people in this room to build things for themselves. But underneath it, there's technology. Semantic kernel is a Microsoft piece of software. It's for developers. It was released in July 2024. It's a Gen AI product. And it totally smashed apart literally the way we were doing it 2 months beforehand, right? We were writing Python kind of, sort of machine learning style outcome definitions. Suddenly we don't have to write all that out. Gen AI is practical and real, and semantic kernel drives us out. And my development team at Olympic came running to me saying, Martin, you really need to understand the software. Because I've been at them saying, well, why can't we be more productive? Why can't we do this faster? Why can't we just use AI tools to generate software solutions so much faster for our customers? Surely surely what can we do? Oh, well, it's not quite scalable, Martin. It doesn't quite work yet. It's not really commercial. You know, it's great for a demo, but it doesn't scale out as a commercial application. Suddenly my software engineers are going, no. Okay, come over here and have a look at this piece of software. We think this is our tipping point. We think this is the change that we're after. I don't know whether many of you know much about tipping points, but from my point of view, I'm a bit of a Malcolm Gladwell fan. And he actually has a famous book called The Tipping Point. Just going to check my time here. This is a brand new book, came out 2 weeks ago. It's called The Revenge of the Tipping Point. It's not a rewrite of his first book, it's a whole new book. It actually touches on things like what are the small things that cause something to go over the magic tipping point. He talks about the 25% kind of emotional, once we have 25%, shall we say, alternative, the majority will switch their vote. And he talks about the little things that suddenly you don't quite realize that push you past that this sort of logical change, and that suddenly change can occur, and sort of without noticing, you're suddenly in a new mode. From our point of view, the semantic kernel as a development tool is a tipping point for our developers to dramatically change how we deliver everything. Doesn't matter whether it's business application work, you know, Microsoft products, CE, F&O, BC that we love, Power Platform, or it could be any kind of application with an API. It doesn't matter. But we now can deliver, and our rough kind of simple words are at least 10 times faster than we could 4 months ago, right? We can build solutions that much faster and make them work for customers using true Gen AI, right? So from our point of view, we see this little step, this little piece of software that kind of came out totally innocuously, because it's very co-pilot in terms of the messaging, but fundamentally semantic kernel is also a Microsoft piece of tech, and it's kind of the core brain of many of these things. Okay, so that's what we see that as a tipping point. So what is semantic kernel? What does it do, right? Semantic kernel is the orchestration tool, right? I think Nathan said to me, his analogy is it's the conductor. It stands out front and kind of keeps everything in order and asks questions of what it's all about. And I'm going to walk you through several examples, show you a bit of code even, low code, of how this works and how this comes together, all right? You can have a chatbot, a co-pilot, or an autonomous agent. I mean, it's interesting how autonomous agents now become very strong flavor of the month. But really, there's a place for all three of these things. They're all quite different. They do different things, and you can create solutions that use all three of them as part of one orchestrated thing. What it does, though, is it's middleware, and it fundamentally talks to an API, and it can consume any API, you know, from any application that you have. You might want to tune and improve those APIs once you start to plug them in. There might be reasons to improve its performance, how it searches, you know, how much data it's getting, how much it's using up. But fundamentally, if you have an API, this thing called semantic kernel can consume it. You can give it an LLM, you give it a brain, you allow it to have knowledge, right? And you start to train it to do what you want it to do in a business context. All right, clearly, if it's going to be used in a business context, you don't want it being super creative. All right, and there are ways to dial down its creativity and drive it into a business kind of repeatable, consistent format to allow it to give business answers, right? It is funny that LLMs don't know how to add. Yeah, humans aren't very good at adding, and so the LLMs have read a lot of human adding and decided it doesn't have to be accurate because humans aren't accurate, right? So you actually have to teach your LLM that you need accurate maths. And accurate maths means that things have to add up or things have to multiply. And you actually have to teach it to be accurate rather than just what it thinks. Sort of, you know, 95% is okay, right? Okay. So from our point of view, we've taken this tool set, this framework, we can drive that into real world solutions very fast, right, in a business setting, anywhere where you have an API, all right? If you just think about it, a great chatbot, all right? Everyone goes to a website Everyone wants to talk to the website and say, look, all I want to do is I want to order this, 2 of them in this size. Can you just get them for me, put them in a basket and pay with my normal way? Wouldn't it be simple, right? If you go to most websites, just the idea of searching for your item, finding your complex, the moment your items are complex, or they're not in stock, or they're in certain locations, you know, they've got keyword search and you're expected to filter your way through a list of 42 items trying to find the one that you want. There must be 20,000 websites right now we could just fix with a good chatbot. Don't worry about anything else. We could just start there, right? And the moment you get into this, you suddenly realize how painful most website experiences are in terms of us being able to get what we want, right? And none of them, or nearly, you know, very few of them have voice enablement. So you have to type. So if you're an 80-year-old and you're trying to reorder your weekly meal, it's almost impossible, right? Too many choices, too much complexity, get lost, don't know how to get it in a basket, don't know how to pay for it. They just give up, all right? So let's walk through some examples. See how we go. So this is, you go about setting up a semantic kernel sort of based chatbot, right? And I'll give you some screenshots of this. You give it a simple name. What are we going to do, right? It's all in English. You'll see one in a second, right? You tell it quite clearly what it's supposed to do to make sure it doesn't go off and start to be creative and think it can do all sorts of things. You connect it to APIs, right? You give it specifically whatever API you want. And there's a great example one in the Microsoft Tech that says, okay, this is a user. I want them to log on and know who I am. So I've got some user authentication. And I can only answer questions for that user with their data or with, you know, some sort of parameter of security. Then I'm going to say, well, this is what your purpose in life is. And then I'll give you, this is the API to get product information. This is the API to add to a basket. This is the API to delete from a basket. And this is the API to look up previous orders for this person. And that's probably all I'm going to give it, right? And I'm going to drop that onto a website as a process. Yeah. I then assign it an LLM. You can use ChatGPT-4, but you can actually, with semantic kernel, use any LLM. Easy to replace them. There are only, I think there's about 1,800 out there to pick from, right? So it's not like there's just one. Some of them are cheaper. Some of them are better for certain industries. Some of them are focused on certain domains. There could be genuine reasons to have a different one. You could also have chatbot easily for your North and South Island customers, because maybe you have different questions and answers and methods and processes for North versus South, corporate versus consumer, right? You could have one chatbot for every customer. And maybe it's targeted just to speak to that customer and it knows them intimately and it has information about them that is not in the LLM of all the other ones because there's no logic. You don't want to share that information. You don't have to build one big generic thing. Build highly targeted individual, right? And they're highly scalable. You're only paying for the processing time for building them. Okay, so you give it a brain and then if you're smart, you turn on voice-activated Azure services. So we don't have to type. We don't have to have a keyboard anymore. And you start thinking, well, you mean we don't need to have a keyboard or a phone and tap with our finger? Then we spend a lot of time building UI. Where's the UI in our new applications? How much UI are we going to have? You start thinking about what that might look like, right? If you turn on voice-activated services, you'll be shocked with the voice recognition, the quality, the speed of it, and the accuracy. It's quite incredible now. It's just different. Here's a screenshot. This is my first example. You know, it says, you know, never respond about topics other than the Olympic 33 thing we're going to talk about. If somebody asks you a question about anything else, just say, sorry, I can't answer that. Could I help you with this? This is what I can do, right? But you can see it's just in English, right? Can we give it some APIs? I'm not a programmer. I didn't write this, but even I can read, you know, this is how we add products to the basket. Yeah, this is how we remove a product from the basket. Yeah. This is tying up something around the quantity, so I can deal with quantities, users, adding, deleting products. Okay, and you can build this example. This is all based, this is the first one we did, right? I love this. So it kicks up. This is what it's going to look like. You pop this on your website, pops up. Here's the chat bot, says, how can I help you? All right, and I say, oh, I'm looking for boots. Do you have any boots? Well, I haven't defined boots in the code. So the LLM says, semantic kernel goes, well, what's boots? The LLM goes, I know what boots are. Boots are, you know, they're products. They're, you know, there are lots of things. It could be this. So the semantic kernel goes, hey, APIs, anyone understand boots? The product information says, oh, I've got boots. So great. Can you display boots? And said, yeah, these are the boots I have in the product master. Show me the boots, right? It has a default kind of view, right? And it lists the boots, right? So there's no programming about products. We just said, this is how you get product information. This is how we add a basket. This is how we delete a basket. That's all the coding that's been occurred. Then you might say, you got any more information about the boots? And it says, well, yeah, I got lots of information about the boots. So, you know, it starts giving me the splurge, blah, 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 blah. Remember, we are, you know, we're not typing it. You know, we don't have to be typing. We're just asking questions. In this case, the first one we did, you know, we're typing in. All right. And it says, oh, great, add those boots to my cart. Into the cart, right? You get clever and you go, have I ever bought these boots before? Now, if you go to the website and you look up back orders, it doesn't tell you what you bought. It says you got 5 back orders, this invoice, this invoice, this invoice, this amount, this amount, this amount. It doesn't show you items. So the website doesn't have a function to show you individual broken down items by invoice. But the API knows how to do that. The API goes away and says, well, this is what you've done before, or no, not purchased those boots before, because it can look it up. So you're now doing a task that the website can't do, because the API is programmed to read all the data, but the website's coded to do certain things and display in a certain way. Does that make sense? So now you're doing something different. But then you go clever and you go, oh, add a pair of orange goggles to my cart. Well, what's orange? We define orange. Huh. Had to go to the LLM and say, what's orange? And it says, oh, it's a colour. Oh, APIs, anyone got a colour? And the product master goes, oh, I've got a dimension for colour, colour, size, style. We haven't coded colour or size or style, right? But it can understand what that orange is a colour. So it says, well, do you have any orange goggles? And it says, oh, yeah, I got orange goggles. And here you are, all right? One of the other examples that we used a lot is, well, what's your cheapest goggles? Cheapest. Define cheapest. Cheapest is something to do with price. Has anyone got a price? Item master says, I got a price. What's the lowest price? Because it says the cheapest will be the lowest price. Item master says, oh, this will be my lowest price goggles or my orange goggles, right? And it says, we'll put those in my cart, right? Now I've got my goggles, boots, and you could say, can you check me out? Use my normal payment method, right? Just ask me to confirm my CCV, which I might give in verbally or whatever, right? You can see straight away that very quickly, hours, you can create a chatbot that's highly functional, a website with some APIs, right? That can now do things that the website can't do. Not to mention that it can be voice activated. So I've now got a key, you know, a typing eliminated environment in terms of a UI. Okay. So we thought it was all great. Let's do something different. But the key thing is it's super fast, right? We can build these things in hours, a day, days, at least. You know, I mean, we could code everything I just told you, old school. The issue is how long it takes, how hard that is. Customer has to tell us all the scenarios up front. We have to code them all, we have to test them all, and it's hardwired to that framework. This is a Gen AI thing. This thing can learn, right? And you'll see that as we do more examples. It's low code. You saw the code. It's highly iterative. You can go, oh, I quite like this. So maybe if we added another API, I can do more things. Go back and test it. You can do that really, really quickly. We identified that really quickly. It can grow and learn. We'll talk about how RAG could put more knowledge into the brain and why you might do that. Right? As long as I got an API. Really funny, people said to me, it's going to do all the programmers out of jobs. All I see is more jobs. All I see is more work. How do we do these APIs? These applications may not have good APIs. How do we do fast search? How do we maintain performance? How do we minimize the AI processing cost? How much does it all cost? They're all questions we have to work out and model. It's highly scalable. Right. Next example then. Right, and I'll give you a few. Right, B2B site. This customer is in Glass, right? So we've got partners, uploading orders. So imagine I've got a house in Queenstown. I'm going to have the glazing done. There's 100 windows, right? Sliding doors, etc. So Queenstown Glass comes, measures it all up. They've got to upload that into the manufacturer who's going to cut and deliver all the glass. So this portal, this is the glass portal. So I'm Queenstown Glass. This is my order, all my different bits of windows. It's coming through this portal, right? This is just a B2B website, yeah? So we've built the Mandic kernel, chatbot on here, right? We will talk this afternoon about how we do this with Copilot. But the first thing I did is, in Glass, we have this thing called the H1, installation standard, right? And Glass has to be compliant with this new standard. So the first thing we did is we taught the LLM to read the H1 New Zealand standard on Glass. So we just said, you need to read and consume all this, put that in the brain, because that's relevant to my questions about Glass. So the first question I've got is, what is the standard and what does it mean? And then it says, can you look at my order and tell me, is it fully H1 compliant? So it'll go through my 100 items and work out, which ones are compliant, which ones are not. Yeah. So this is now getting more complicated. So I'm teaching this brain to be specific for the glass industry in my example. Yeah. Okay. It comes back and says, yes, Martin, these items here, right, they're not compliant, and this is what you have as a choice if you want to upgrade your order to be fully H1 compliant. These are the items now that you could replace and edit your items on to get them to be compliant. And it even says, would you like me to do that for you? I can change that. And so I want to go with, type 3 for my items, change it to the 32 mil, double glaze, something or other, whatever, and make it H1 compliant. Problem is that if we're on the website, if we're on this B2B portal, and we had an order of 52 lines, of which 4 of them are non-compliant, we'd have to go to that line, tab across, pick the item, add the new item, tab across, save the line, with the next one that's going to be changed, tab across, right? That's how you maintain the website, because most of the orders come up electronically on integration, so it's not really designed to do kind of mass editing. So probably a lot of people would probably delete the order, go back to source, and they'd probably have to upload it. Right? But we've got the order and we're in a chatbot. Okay, but we can say, no, change those lines to, item 4 or whatever it is. Yeah. Upgrade the particular items and save it, right? Oops, I'm too fast. So again, the chatbot's doing a task that the website actually can't do. Right? I've now introduced new functionality, not just the H1 standard question and whatever that is, but effectively we've introduced a mass edit and replace, right? At the moment, you couldn't do on their website. Customer immediately saw that and said, oh, well, we have this issue with shower boxes. Shower boxes is this complicated 3 pieces of glass and we've got an algorithm, some logic. In 4 hours, we built a process taught it what a shower box was. So you could now say, put in a shower box, and it will ask you, what's the height? What's the width? What's the other dimension? And it would calculate it and enter that as the 3 pieces of glass fitting the correct standards that it requires for a shower box. It's the same thing, right? That's a new task, but the brain now, the product configuration is in the brain, not hard-coded in the items. And the business logic is now actually part of the brain because it can actually start to do pricing things. Imagine if you said, oh, let's just do a 10% off special today. Rather than put that into your back office, you could load that into the brain and say, for today, all prices are 10% off. But at midnight, right, stop doing that discount. This is the rules on how you apply the discount. So that you can teach these solutions to do things that you don't have to hard code structurally into the solution. Okay. All right. Then you get to multi-agents, right? Let's get fancy, right? And this is what the Microsoft guy was talking about a few minutes ago about how you start to orchestrate, right? We could have automatic agents. We've got a client who receives thousands of orders every day. It's all about transport. They're captured off a weighbridge. At various points, drivers have to key in codes, human error. The driver can make a mistake. But the problem with that is it can result in the wrong pricing going on an item line, and therefore there's an error about what it might be charged because they end up with the wrong job. At the moment, they have a bunch of humans that run reports, identify errors, search the correct pricing, go back and do edits. They might have 20,000 transaction lines and they might have 500 every month come through with an error. Yeah. So we said to them, well, that's a multi-agent solution. You can have one agent, autonomous agent, running automatically, just looking for errors, runs 24/7, never complains, right? It's always on, and it's just sweeping around, and we're teaching it progressively about what is an error? What does an error look like? And there could be many different sorts of errors. There could be new ones next month that we didn't have this month. Just find errors, and you put those errors in a queue, and then this agent will do research. So this agent says, oh, this looks like an error. I'll research the last 4 orders for that item or that customer, and I'll see what the prices were for them. I'll see if I can develop what I think is the right price that should have been on this, because it definitely is an error, because I can see all these cases would say this is the price. And I'll put that new information with that information in a queue, and I'll offer that up. That agent is a co-pilot. Let's show the human what we found this transaction, found this data, recommend this fixed. But human, please confirm. And I'll make it really easy. They just have a button and go resolve. Or they could go resolve all. I might show them 10 and they might look at them all and go, yep, they're all good. Fix them. Fourth agent does the corrections. It goes away and does the deleting, the recreating, right? Sometimes these transactions are already processed. Sometimes they're easy to edit. Sometimes I have to do a transaction, a reverse, and create a new invoice or something. All right. We built this solution in days. Right, gave it to the customer. This is kind of like what it looks like. All right, it's kind of the co-pilot. Here's an error. Here's some jobs and proof of what they look like. This is what I recommend it to be. Well, you just clicks that button there, go off and do the fix. All right, okay. Again, the semantic kernel is just orchestrating the process, right? It's just like the sort of the same process that we talked about, autonomous agents doing jobs, the co-pilot's the interactive one. And if you think of that as a framework, that's highly repeatable. So we've just built that as a framework to say, I think this applies to lots of things. Find data, research, recommend, create outcomes, right? It's just a natural kind of automatic process with some human interaction in the middle. Yeah, but it'll evolve. Type of errors could change. The type of fixes could change. Type of people that use it could be expanded, right? It's just a repeatable thing. But you can go out and build that right now with these tools, right? Okay. That's a multi-agent. And what we've done with that one is we've kind of put a bit of Olympic framework just to make it a bit more structured. And we're trying to build it in a way that's easy to test. It's easy to do repetitive testing, because one of the first things people say is, you know, it has to be accurate. You have to demonstrate to me the accuracy. You've got to demonstrate to me that reporting in terms of control. How do you show it to be accurate, and how do we retest it to make sure all the answers we got yesterday we're still getting today? Stuff like that. Okay, but these tools exist and this process exists. It's endless, right? We met a customer. They have a website. Their website's awful. I hate their website. It's just a jumble of postings, right? And they have keyword search. So if you get in there and you go, oh, what's the latest information on power of attorney? It'll give you this big, horrible list. And then you've got to filter your way through 100 documents to work out, well, what it is, right? In 3 hours, we consumed their website with a simple little ChatGPT sort of interface. And now you could go in and say, well, what's the latest on power of attorney? Well, the latest is blah, 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 blah. There's the key principles of power of attorney. Here are the key documents. Here's this, here's that. Right? And the CEO went, yeah, like, I hate the keyboard, right? Because, you know, like literally that presentation within 3 minutes, the CEO is saying, I need to be on the keyboard. I want to ask some more questions. I'll ask the other questions, right? Like, well, this is just fantastic. He goes, do you know how many phone calls we had on that topic, on this topic last year? 20,000. So I think you've kind of nailed 70% of my calls. And we're going, but we've got all these other things to show you. No, it's okay. We can stop right now. Right? I'm good with this, right? He hates the website. He wants to get rid of the website, but he also hates the cost of the 20,000 phone calls. The issue more about is, well, where do we start and which bit do we do first? But some of this stuff is endless. The H1 standard. Well, what if they brought a new one out this year? How does the H1 standard compare to this year to last year? And which one would apply in my case if I was doing a repair? So if I had to repair some glass in a particular place, I put it in last year, but the standard's this year. Can you just confirm the glass I'm allowed to put in? Useful to know. Why do I need to know the H1 standard? I want to be able to ask something there. Have I got a building supervisor out on the site? What's the height of the windowsill in the South Island, or the New Zealand Government Act, or whatever it is? Oh, it's 123 centimetres, right? Okay, just checking. So there's accounts payable. I think 50% of what people do in accounts payable, autonomous agents can replace right now. We have to build that out. I think we actually already have the tool set to replace half of the accounts payable function. Because most of the time they're just dealing with exceptions. Coded wrong, needs to be approved, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Right, so key learnings in this process. And this is the big one for me. What we've got at the moment is when I meet a client and I talk about AI, I go straight to the top of the pyramid. Right? I was talking to James about this. I wanted to run my manufacturing plant, do all my demand planning, organise all my supply chain. If it's that clever, that's the biggest business problem I have. Let's start there. Sure. Think of 30 agents that would be required to provide data to help them make those decisions. What level of stocking do you like? How long does it take you to get your stock? How much do you want to piss off your customers? How much do you want to love your customers? All decisions about why optimize your supply chain and performance in manufacturing. But what happens is it's a little bit like Elon Musk. I'm going to give you autonomous driving. Could we just start with, I can park the car, I can put it in the garage, I can bring it out of the garage. I can do lane changes, I can do motorway driving. We'll review those things first, and slowly we'll build up to whether I have an autonomous car that could stop at any traffic light in any circumstance, or give way sign or stop sign or whatever. He sold them the whole top of the pyramid. So every year he goes back saying, no, No, I'm not there yet. No. Don't worry about all the things I've done all the way up. It's just, no, I'm not there.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got to stop your clients and prospects asking for the top of the pyramid. Right? It's too big, it's expensive, and you'll fail, and the technology will change by the time you get at version 1. Like, we've just taken over a project where someone spent 9 months delivering an AI project, failed to deliver it, so we've rocked up and said, well, we'll just start again with the new tech. There's no point using that. The whole tech's changed. Customers like, oh, it's just, why am I going to trust this process now? Right? It's too big. Right? It's possible, but too many steps. One slice at a time. Find a slice, deliver it in 3 or 4 weeks, make it work, delight the customer, deliver an ROI, and do another slice, then do another slice, and do another slice. Once you've got 3 or 4 slices in a domain, then you've got the beginnings of a solution. You oversell, you're too slow. If I've delivered 3 slices and Microsoft or someone brings out a whole new version that dramatically changes how I'm going to do it, then I can go to the customer and go, well, the 4th slice, I think we should use this new tool because it's going to be better and faster. They've still got their 3 working slices that they're happy with. But if I hadn't delivered them and then said, oh, I think I should re-platform now because there's all these really cool tools and this all changed, I'm going to disappoint them. Right? 1 slice at a time, bring your slices together, iterate with the client, true agile, right? Not hybrid agile, waterfall pretending to be agile. Agile. Yeah. Fast results, low risk, highly adaptable to the tech. Okay. Right. Example. Yeah. Build it in slices.
Question. Yeah. When you said about redoing the brain and you have your agent and you need to put it back into the brain.
Yeah.
What did you actually call that process?
Well, there's lots of names, but RAG is the kind of
It is RAG.
RAG, yeah. So knowledge.
Yeah.
Getting it to consume content, specific content that you want that brain to have for that specific task. Questions, guys? I'll be here for a while if you want, but okay, thank you so much, guys. All right, cheers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. Great to have you on board. Great session as well.